This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Good Monday morning. I know what it is. I'm so excited for the week that it's already Friday, apparently. Good Monday morning, Grant. How are you?
Doing good. I'm feeling actually great. Yesterday was so nice. I've been kind of like a slight hater of the whole...
Slight hater? Of what?
London team or just a Europe or an England, a general football team moving over there. But what was really, really nice?
What was really nice, Grant?
Waking up and not having to watch a bunch of football pregame and waiting for 12 to roll around to finally watch one football game.
That's
I was
true.
able to wake up, and it was just the start of the first quarter. It was midway. I'm like,
I totally forgot about it.
There's a football game on.
Yeah, I was getting fantasy updates. I was like, no one's playing at 8:30. What the heck? And I'm like, oh, Jarvis Landry, the Dolphins, right? That's what it was. And then
I made a
up
huge
working out
fantasy
well.
mistake. I made
Did you? I made several as well.
I made it. Well, okay, because I put Matthews in for Philadelphia.
Ryan Matthews,
and DeMarco Murray, because he didn't play last week, and then Ryan Matthews went off last week.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll put him in this week because he did well last week.
Sure.
But DeMarco Murray was listed as ready. He was going to play.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I'll just leave him in to see if DeMarco Murray doesn't do well. Then they're like, okay, we'll put Matthews back in. Matthews only got 5 yards. And then, who I had sitting on my bench, because I thought he wasn't going to do well against an Arizona defense, Todd Gurley, who had 150 yards.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, if you started him or not.
No, I didn't. I was thinking about it, but I'm like, you know what? Matthews did really well last week. Gurley's playing Arizona. I didn't think, but I'm like, should, DeMarco Murray.
There was a lot of
They're
games.
always going to stay with him, I guess.
Yeah,
because Chip Kelly, I don't know what he's doing. I
Nobody
still
knows.
in Chip Kelly, I still trust, but right now it's not really looking good.
Yeah, no kidding. And we'll definitely talk about all the action that took place here in Week 4 in the NFL, and specifically we'll hit on the Green Bay Packers and 49ers game in our third segment. We'll be chatting a little bit about the 2015 MLB playoff bracket as well. So we're excited to see
the playoffs
where these guys are going to go. We've got some one-game playoff scenarios. The first time, to my knowledge, that this has happened in the baseball world. Is that correct?
Yes, first time.
I'm excited for a non-baseball follower. I'm curious to see where it goes. So,
but as a we'll talk about it. But it's really actually annoying if you're a specific follower of some teams. It's really annoying.
Some of you are excited by the playoffs. Some of you are not too happy about it. But we'll get to all that in just a little while. We do want to take a moment to remind all of you that you can catch us right here live from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and on Periscope as well. Hello and good morning to all of you watching us on Periscope. Great to see all of you. You can shoot us your questions and comments about anything we talk about during the show. We appreciate it and love hearing from you as well. We also want to remind you can get us from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on Sports Radio America, sportsradioamerica.com, live 365, and tune in. And then you can get us on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and right here on Spreaker.com as well.
You can also find us on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. We are also over on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show. On Twitter, Baxter is at Baxter Colburn, and I am at Grant's Rant BGSS.
All right. Well, if you ever want to also get a hold of us, you can also shoot us an email at bgsportshow@gmail.com. It was an interesting week in the NFL, Grant, and one more game has yet to happen.
Yeah, and somebody actually just commented, I want to throw this in quick on Periscope.
Go ahead.
They said they placed Tyrod Taylor. They started Tyrod Taylor over Drew Brees. And, I would have done this. I would have done the same thing. I honestly would have done the same thing with how well the Bills have been playing, how well Tyrod Taylor has been playing. They did not do well yesterday, and we can just roll right into it. They did not do well against the New York Giants, and I definitely would have played it if he was playing that New York Giants defense. But Tyrod Taylor yesterday, 42 for 274 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was debating between Alex Smith and Tyrod Taylor on my fantasy team this last week, and I was like, okay, Alex Smith, he won't throw a touchdown, so I don't need to worry about giving up a lot of points that way. I'll go with Tyrod. He's been hot, and Tyrod, I think, only got me 13 points, and Alex Smith didn't throw a touchdown, but he threw for almost 400 yards, and that got me 17 points. So I didn't get the points from Smith, unfortunately. But Tyrod Taylor going against the Bills defense. We heard yesterday at
the Giants defense, you mean?
The Giants defense. That's who it is. I don't know. We heard yesterday during the OT on Fox Sports that they were saying that this is a Giants team that could potentially be 4-0. I have a hard time believing that, but they've started to look fairly decent so far.
No, I agree with that, with how they've dropped their first 2 games. We all remember how they dropped it against the Cowboys week 1.
That was just more of a mental error than anything.
On Monday Night Football or Sunday night. It was on nightly national football. I don't remember
exactly. It was
exactly
football that was not during the daytime.
Yes, exactly. National television, and it was definitely a drop game, and I can't remember who they played week 2 now, but that was also a drop game, I remember.
Yes.
They were up, and they pretty much gave it up. They almost did it last week, but they were able to hold on, and same thing with this week. So I definitely actually agree that the Giants could be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly if we'd be talking about them as one of the best teams in football if they were 4-0 right now. They're kind of in that same boat as our next game, which is Carolina and Tampa Bay, because Carolina is playing well. However, when you look at what Tampa Bay is putting on the field, it's hard to really say that this is a true tested, well done, way to go, Carolina. Carolina did what they were supposed to do, so I'm glad that they won 37-23. And they picked off Jameis Winston 4 times and 2 for pick sixes, or 1 for a pick 6. It's
yeah.
Tampa Bay's a hot mess right now.
Yeah, even though you had those interceptions, Jameis Winston also he did go 26 for 43, 287 yards with 2 touchdowns. But then, like you said, you do have all those interceptions. So those interceptions kind of drag him down because it's hard to win when you throw 4 of them.
It's very rare that you can do something like that.
It is really tough, and
unless you're Russell Wilson in the NFC Championship game.
Anyway, moving on. How dare you bring that up?
That's like the only time in recent history that a quarterback has done atrocious in a big game and actually come out on the winning side.
You're in a timeout now.
Well,
you're done. Go sit in the corner.
I don't know about that.
You go sit.
Why? Can't make me.
Anyway, you talking about the Panthers. I was listening last night to an NFL outsider, something like that. They were talking, a bunch of ex-NFL pro stars just sitting around a table talking, and they were talking about the Panthers and saying, yeah, they're 4-0, yeah, they're good, but they're not great. And
they're not the best team.
They're going to make it into the playoffs and not do well. It's kind of like looking over at the Falcons, but the Falcons look better. The Falcons, kind of the same thing with the Panthers. They have a weaker schedule, and they also have a weaker division. So, yeah, the teams look good. Their records look good, but are they actually really all that good?
And it's going to be one of those things once Carolina and Atlanta finally play each other in division play, and whoever wins, whatever. But even still, you have to judge that of who the better team is technically. Even if they're both 6-0, 7-0 when they finally play each other. If Atlanta beats Carolina, I think that's an okay win for Atlanta. If Carolina beats Atlanta, I feel like that's a better thing for Carolina's perspective of trying to say, hey, look, we actually are a decent team, because Atlanta has played, I feel, stronger opponents, not by much, than Carolina.
And those season games where they're going to play each other, that's going to decide their season really for them.
It is,
a big part of it is going to come down to those divisional games, and it normally does. But especially with these two teams, looking at their schedules, how weak they are, how weak the rest of the division are, so their seasons are really going to come down to 2 big games. Now, looking over at the Falcons, they beat the Houston Texans 48-21. Mm-hmm. Houston just looking really bad. Once
again, a game you're supposed to win if you're Atlanta.
Right, exactly. And they did. They came out at home just guns blazing, put up 48 points. Matt Ryan didn't really go all crazy. He was 19 for 27 with 256 yards and 1 touchdown. And Teron Ward, 19 carries, 72 yards with 1 touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, though, for Houston, getting it done, though. He had 9 receptions for 157 yards. That's really well, but still not enough to overcome the Falcons.
No, it's not. And Devontae Freeman, too, he won't be listed in terms of leading rushers, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns yesterday. I think he had 43 total rushing yards, or he had under 50 yards rushing on the day, but he still scored a total of 3 touchdowns. For anybody that started him in fantasy, I'm sure you were thrilled by that. Devontae Freeman, he had a total of 68 total yards. We also saw the return of Arian Foster yesterday for Houston. He only had 8 carries for 10 yards. I think they're just trying to slowly ease him back and not try to give him a bulk of the carries right away, but even still, though, if you're Houston, if Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett are basically splitting time is what it looked like yesterday. I mean, Hoyer had 30 pass attempts. Mallett had 27. I mean, Hoyer threw 2 touchdowns. Mallett threw a pick.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
A 2-quarterback system is not awful, but it's all about how you do it.
Look at Brian Hoyer, 17 for 30. That's over 50 completion percentage, so it's not the best completion percentage I've ever seen, but it's not horrible.
No.
Especially when you have an offense like Houston. You have 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, only was sacked once. Your quarterback rating is 103.8 compared to the starter, 46.8. I mean,
if Brian Hoyer might be the answer. Yeah.
That's what I've been saying since preseason, but apparently I'm stupid, and the Houston Texans aren't listening to me.
Well,
clearly they should be.
Maybe they should.
I'm right. I am right.
Apparently
the stats agree with me, Baxter.
That's all that matters.
These stats agree with me.
Hey, as long as somebody agrees with you, Grant, that's all that makes a difference. Looking else at some of the other games around the NFL, we saw the Jets take out the Dolphins in London 27-14.
That was a good game.
There's rumors that the Jets are going to be looking for a new head coach sooner rather than... not the Jets. The Dolphins are going to be looking for a new head coach sooner rather than later. The Jets are off to a 3-1 start. First time they've done that since 2010. The Dolphins, it's gone from bad to worse. They paid millions and millions of dollars for Ndamukong Suh in the offseason, and he has yet to register a sack.
Neither has the whole defensive line.
Yeah.
The defense has only registered 1 sack this entire season, and it hasn't come from that.
They're not a bad defense, technically. On paper, they're not a bad defense, but they have not shown any sort of movement at all in terms of defensive production. A game that surprised most people yesterday would be the Colts going to overtime with the Jaguars. Matt Hasselbeck, the oldest quarterback to start and win a game in the NFL this season, and Adam Vinatieri, the oldest kicker to start and kick a game-winning field goal in the NFL this season as well.
Yeah, and people might be saying, well, what if you put Andrew Luck in? It would have been a lot better. Because it's a win, but it doesn't look really all that good. It's a bad win. And it wouldn't be this...
That doesn't help the Colts' cause at all.
No, I don't think Andrew Luck would have done much, especially how he's been actually really bad this year.
Yep.
So I don't think that would have changed much.
No, and I think somebody else that hurt their cause yesterday was the Philadelphia Eagles as they lose to the Washington Redskins 23-20. I'm still not exactly sure if Washington is just out to just spoil everybody else's party this year, or if they're actually trying to work on getting a ticket to the big party.
Well, I mean, everybody is. I'm not doubting that the Redskins are. I don't think they're just out there like, oh, our team sucks, but let's just try to win as hard as we can so we can, just ruin everybody's day because we don't have a shot. No, I think their mentality is we actually have a good team. People are doubting us, and let's just go out there and kick everybody's butt.
Yeah, got to do it. All right, another game that was unfortunate for Oakland. The first time they were favored in a game since 2013. They lose on a last-second field goal to the one-legged Chicago Jay Cutler Bears. Jay Cutler, not an awful day from him. He led the Bears to a 22-20 victory. They're now 1-3. Raiders dropped to 2-2 despite Derek Carr and Amari Cooper both having great days.
Jay Cutler throwing only 1 interception.
Yep, 2 touchdowns on the day. He looked good. He looked very good. Real quick before we sneak off to a break, the Bengals moved to 4-0. They captured a 36-21 victory over the Chiefs. That speaks volumes of, I guess, just how good the Bengals team as a whole is playing. Or maybe just the concerns continuing to rise for Kansas City about the issues that they might have offensively and maybe defensively. We thought the defense would be the best part for Kansas City, and we have yet to really see that this season. We saw the Chargers outlast the Browns 30-27. They had a chance to win the game at the end. They missed the field goal. The Browns were too excited. They jumped off sides, got a second chance at it. San Diego put it through for the win, and that's kind of the story for the Browns season as a whole.
Yeah, pretty much, unfortunately.
And then the later games that took place, you saw Arizona, they dropped from the undefeated ranks. They dropped to 3-1, courtesy of the St. Louis Rams. They beat them 24-22. Nick Foles tosses 3 touchdowns. Todd Gurley goes for 146 yards on 19 carries. And then it was a bit of a thriller in the Mile High Stadium. The Minnesota Vikings almost played spoiler to the Denver Broncos. The Broncos winning 23-20. Adrian Peterson having himself a fairly good day on the ground. However, it still is not the full product that the Vikings offense is hoping for. Denver, they are, in my opinion, still one of the weaker 4-0 teams.
Yes, I would definitely agree with you on that. And it was a good attempt by the Vikings. They actually made it really close in Denver, which is always a hard place to play. So they did really well. And I just want to talk very quickly about last night's game. The Saints getting their first win of the season over the Cowboys, 26-20. Absolutely great way to start off overtime, really. Second play of the game, 80-yard touchdown pass. Actually, they were talking about it that it was set up by an illegal pick, hurting one of the Dallas Cowboys players, that it should have been a penalty. And then they come out
Dallas
with...
is always going to say that.
Well, yeah, it wasn't Dallas, so they came out and said that. It was one of the reporters that came out. And they had all just fresh linebackers because... I'll get to that in a little bit, but all the linebackers were new. They're like rookies or very little experience, and they just got burned because they didn't have a lot of experience. But the Dallas Cowboys, you got to watch out for them because, yes, they're 2-2, and yes, they don't look great, but they remind me so much of the 2010 Packers. It's kind of scary. You want to know why?
Why?
How many injuries they've had.
Well,
look
yes.
at
their star quarterback.
I was just gonna say the only difference is because they don't have their star quarterback
or Jordy Nelson, aka Des Bryant.
But so they lost Des Bryant. They lost Tony Romo. They just lost number 50. What's his name?
Sean Lee.
Yeah, Sean Lee. They just lost him last night. They've lost countless other starters due to injury. I think they had 4 injuries, 4 or 5 injuries last night. They're losing guys left and right. They can't put anything together. So
I think it's a different situation, though. I mean,
exactly.
Green Bay had injuries, but they still had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. But still, look at all their injuries. It's a lot of their key players.
That's true.
Just like
that's very true.
The Packers won the Super Bowl on second string. So I'm just saying. That's what it reminds me of.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, Grant's going to have his rant. You're not going to want to miss it. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Welcome back inside the studio as we continue to roll on with a Monday edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show. I'm Bax. He's Grant. We're just chatting about the world of football. And somebody here on Periscope saying we want to be the least penalized team in the NFL, a.k.a. Rex Ryan. Well, you shouldn't have had 17 penalties happen yesterday.
I think that was when he was in the press conference after the game. I mean, you can check me if I'm wrong, because I'm just wondering if that was or not, because I know he did have a press conference last night talking about it, because he was saying that he was proud of his team and how they played mentally.
We've got a lot of heart, he kept saying. We've got a lot of heart.
I'd rather have a team that plays for me, that gets penalized more, and then instead of a team that doesn't get penalized but doesn't play with heart. Something like that.
Rex.
He was saying stuff like that.
Go stare at a picture of your wife's feet on your desk.
Oh, yeah,
or get a Tim Tebow tattoo.
That was weird.
Such a weird
guy. He has a Tim Tebow tattoo?
I think it's either a Tim Tebow or a Mark Sanchez tattoo.
Oh, I'd imagine it's Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, I thought it was Tebow. I think that was, I don't remember who it is. But
why would it be Tebow? It would make much more sense.
Everybody loves Tim Tebow.
I love Tim Tebow. I wish he could play. Some teams need Tim Tebow. Yeah. I'm just saying. They need them.
No, I agree. Well, I need your rant right now, though, Grant. That's what I really need.
I can hook you up. I can hook you up.
You know a guy?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Okay. Well, if you know a guy that can do your rant today, I'd be very appreciative of it. Grant has his rant Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He gets a minute to rant about anything he wants in the sports world, and then we ash it out for a few moments and then go to a break. So we're excited to figure out exactly what Grant has to rant about today. It's going outside the football world, but it's still something relevant. It's not outside the football world.
It's in the football world.
You were mentioning 2 or 3 different things you were going to rant about, so I'm glad that we finally you decided to stay in the football world, so that's a good thing. So I'm ready if you're ready.
I've been ready. I've had it since last night. What are you talking about?
I'm just making sure.
I've had this thing ready.
Okay, I'm good. All right, ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Ready to go.
Okay, yesterday, NFL Sunday, and then we had Thursday, and it's just all great. We have Monday Night Football coming out tonight. And, have you ever just been sitting there, and then your team goes 3 and out? Oh, that's unfortunate. And then they pump the ball, and then you remember a time when there wasn't a block in the back penalty. I don't remember, out of the 4 games I watched yesterday, I can't remember when there wasn't a punt or a kickoff. And more often than not on the punts, but when there wasn't an illegal block in the back. There was even a reporter or a guy who was doing the play-by-play who was like, oh, look, another flag. They should just start out with the flags in their hands before the punt. I mean, it's honestly true. It's happened time and punt and punt and punt. It's just, oh, another flag. Oh, there's another flag. Oh, another flag. It's just, you got to do something about it. I mean, either call less or make sure that the penalty is very clear or maybe broad in it, because that's absolutely ridiculous sometimes how many times it's getting called.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. When you talk about blocking the backs, like you said, it's kind of like holding on the offensive side of the ball. It happens every single play. It's up to the refs if they decide to call it or not. And I think the refs have gotten to the point now where it's a level of severity. It's like, oh, that was a block in the back, but it was just a slight tap. But now, it's okay. Like I think the refs have worked out a system between themselves where they've already started to bend the rules just enough. It's like, okay, well, that was holding on that play, but he didn't get him completely on the outside, so it wasn't as blatantly obvious, or that was a block in the back, but he just kind of hit him. It wasn't a full-on hit in the back. I don't know if it's the refs or is it just the players are purposely out-targeting each other.
Well, I think it might be something because they're saying that, we want to get out there more and make sure we penalize them so they know what we're going to accept, and not kind of like preseason. But
yes, well, preseason
it's
was
week 4 now.
Yeah, it's week 4. We moved past the honeymoon stage, folks. Let's get it going. Let's get the refs.
Come on, yeah, just let them play. And I mean, they don't show. They used to show the block in the back penalty replays so we could see, but they haven't been showing them, so I don't necessarily see them all. But I mean, there was one where they picked up the flag because the ref was like, he was just blocked in the side. And I wonder how many times that actually happens. Because there's a bunch of bodies flying all over the place.
Yes.
And the gunners, you don't know what's going to happen with those guys.
No,
because that's always they're
kind of like kamikaze pilots. They just run down, try to hit somebody, and hope for the best.
That's like the trench warfare 2.0.
It really is.
Like you always say, it's the battle of the trenches with the offensive and defensive line. 2.0 is the gunners on a punt return.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's just a bunch
of... It's brutal.
Yeah, it really is. And there's that all going on, and there's 11 or 22 guys flying trying to destroy each other while running downhill. A punt is really dangerous. So yeah, I think it's good that they have blocking the back penalty because it is really dangerous if it's like flat on block in the back. But I think a lot of it is coming from the side, and they might be a little bit more behind in the shoulder from a referee's point of view.
The vantage point is all the difference.
If you're looking face forward towards the return man, so there's the line of scrimmage, and you're kind of watching. You're near the punter, and then the punt goes, and you're more face onto the return man. It's going to look like more because all the bodies are going away from you. Mm-hmm. If there's a block in the back, or a block on the side, it's gonna look more behind.
It is. It's all about the vantage point, and I think that's what the referees are going.
I think half the time that might be what it is, because it just seems like every single punt. It is ridiculous how many times there's a penalty for block in the back.
Absolutely.
It's getting to a point where I don't even care about a punt return. There was one time I'm like, they were like, he's a very dangerous return man. Let's see if he can return. I'm like, there's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, like, it doesn't even bother returning the ball anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Just might as well just wave a fair catch because the penalty is
you're going to take
15
yards.
Exactly. That's going to be a better return than what you're going to actually do with it. So anyway, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to dive into what happened yesterday with the Packers 49ers game. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Grant, do you know what time it is?
What time is it, Bax?
It is time to celebrate a Green Bay Packers victory. That's what time it is. Pack, go! That's what time it is.
Oh, I love it.
I'm excited for it. It's been great. Another exciting victory for the Green Bay Packers. They're 4-0, one of the few elite teams left. And you're showing me... Oh, okay. You're showing me Fireman Ed from the New York Jets.
He's got his own Wikipedia page.
You know you've made it in the world when you get your own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, but while we're talking about this is relevant. Yes, we're going to be talking about the Packers game. Yeah, they won, but first little side note, forgot to mention this when we talked about the Jets and Dolphins game. They were over at Wembley. And you said 90,000 people
90,000 people were at
Absolutely
Wembley Stadium
fantastic.
Yesterday.
I'm actually kind of now more leading towards maybe you should do the London games more often or something like that, but it actually has come out that the London team has become less likely to happen. I got it's a rumor on the NFL Rumors by Bleacher Report.
Sure.
It's a really great if you want to just get push notifications for NFL Rumors, just download the app. It's really great. But that it's a rumor that the London team is is becoming less likely, unfortunately. But anyway, we're talking about Fireman Ed, a big Jets fan. He did not create the JETS, Jets chant that we all know, but he's still a big leader in it. And actually, he led fans at Wembley Stadium because he flew all the way to London to watch this game.
Of course.
And led fans by himself because it wasn't a home game, so he had to do all the work. There was no announcer or music to lead into it. He did it by himself, and it was loud. And you could you could hear it, and you could hear that there was a decent number of people, and he led it all throughout the game. It wasn't just like a one and done.
You got to do it. If you're Fireman Ed, you got to lead the Jets.
He did it about 10 times.
That's impressive.
And for somebody to root for the Jets that hard, I mean, proud of him. But while we're talking about this is Green Bay won yesterday, 17-3, and we're going to talk about the game. But at the end, getting closer to the end, it was in the second half, I believe that's when I started hearing it.
Yep.
You could hear very audible "Go Pack Go" chants over cheering of the San Francisco 49ers fans.
What cheering was there for San Francisco?
There
was no cheering.
Very little.
San Francisco continues to spiral down into a dark pit of hell. We might as well start calling them the new Oakland Raiders because they're playing horribly.
Yeah, they're not doing great. Kaepernick just looks like he's their second running back out there. And
no, he looks like their first running back. Carlos Hyde had an awful day yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
8 carries, 20 yards. Colin Kaepernick went 10 carries, 57 yards. Let's be honest. There were times during the game yesterday that I was sitting there going, okay, we're going to see the same Colin Kaepernick that was going AWOL on the Packers in the playoffs a few years ago. And there was moments of it, but that was the announcers said something positive about Dom Capers. They said he has learned to adapt to it, and he has thus been able to have the defense read the read option. I was like, oh, someone said something nice about Dom Capers.
Yeah, everybody's just been a big hater of Dom lately.
Yeah, I can take it or leave it, honestly, with Dom.
I'm like, yeah, the defense hasn't done great, but the defense, I think, is better than a lot of people give it credit for. A lot of people give the Packers' defense crap because I think the offense is so good. And because the offense
they get overshadowed by it. And any team with a great quarterback or a great offense is going to get overshadowed by the defense like that.
And then this, I feel like, was more of a defensive win.
It was.
Instead of an offensive win. The offense did not have a great day. They didn't have as many possessions as they usually do. It was kind of like reminiscent of the Bears game, where the Packers didn't get many. They only had, I think, 3 or 4 in the first half. They got a touchdown in their first drive. Mason Crosby missed a field goal, unfortunately, for my fantasy team.
That was painful for me as a Crosby supporter. I'm watching win my Mason Crosby jersey. I'm watching with Corey Plath, and he looked at me after the missed field goal. I'm like, it's not my fault.
He
just gave me that look like I had everything to do with that.
He just pushed it just a little bit too far to the left.
He got a little excited.
It was 44 yards, and he just missed it. It was like,
To be fair, a 44-yard field goal, anything over 40 yards is a little bit more of a gamble.
But as an NFL, no, I'd say anything over 50 yards, 44 is pretty automatic for Crosby.
Potentially
for Crosby,
he was kicking from the left hash, trying to go, and then he pushed it wide just to the left a little bit. So it was
for Mason Crosby, that should be automatic.
He didn't open up his hips enough. He tried to keep it straight on. He should have pushed it right a little bit.
Still love the guy. I don't think it's gonna. I'm not like. It's like the 2000. What was it? 12. 2011?
11, I believe.
It was 2011 season when he just did awful.
Yes.
But the Packers offense wasn't horrible. Aaron Rodgers still had a great game. He was 22 of 32.
Yes. Well, can I make a quick note about the Packers offense?
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking on the Packers ball possession and drive chart for the game yesterday. Let's see here. So they what did they do here? They punted. They punted 6 times. They scored twice, 3 times, obviously, because they got 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They had a turnover on downs. They had didn't have an interception. What are you talking about? What?
How ball obtained.
How the ball was. I'm sorry. I don't know how to read. I'm sorry. I was like, what the heck?
English, the struggles.
I don't know what the heck is going on. But either way, Green Bay, they scored 2 different touchdowns and a field goal. However, though, there was a lot of punting. We saw a lot of Tim Mastey yesterday, but they had a total of 10 drives yesterday.
Which was actually pretty average looking back at it.
Both of them and San Francisco had
10 drives. It's actually pretty average. Actually, looking back at it,
yes.
6 punts. It's not great, but they still,
Green Bay had more possession, 36 minutes to San Francisco's 22 total minutes,
and a lot of it was It was a lot of third down problems in kind of no man's land territory.
Yes.
In midfield, because they got the ball sometimes, a lot of the times, deeper in their zone or more in their territory.
Yes.
Yep. They would get a first down or two, get some momentum, and then they would just hit a brick wall. They'd get a holding penalty. That was... I think the Packers got 3 or 4 holding penalties yesterday.
It was not a shrewd day for the offensive line, which is something I want to touch on. And for those of you that followed us on social media, you could have noticed that we asked a poll question. We didn't get a lot of responses, unfortunately, but we can still hash it out about whether or not you're well. That's the second part of it. We'll get to the defense in just a moment. But I wanted to make note of the semi-concerning play from Don Barclay and also David Bakhtiari. Rodgers did get sacked 3 times yesterday for 24 yards. We also, like you mentioned, there was a few holding penalties. There were a few other penalties being penalized on both sides from Barclay. We saw T.J. Lang get a few, and Josh Sitton. Both of those guys were getting a few penalties called on them.
I think Sitton got 1 holding penalty.
I think the center, Corey Linsley, was the only offensive lineman not penalized yesterday.
Yeah, and Josh Sitton only got, I believe it was Josh Sitton. I know one of the offensive linemen, but I believe it was him because you rarely hear his name getting called.
Yeah.
But he got called once or twice yesterday. I think it was only once yesterday.
Yeah, I think Lang got it twice.
Yeah, I know one of them got it twice, but Sitton was only charged once last year with offensive holding, and he got it once yesterday. And yeah, it was a rough day for the offensive line. Rodgers was rolling out a lot, had to extend the play a lot by himself. The San Francisco 49ers were getting a lot of pressure, and it was Barkley being beat a lot of the time, and which was a little concerning. But I'm not extremely concerned by it because we've talked during the preseason he wasn't playing very well. But when he's had to step up due to injuries on the offensive line, he has actually looked pretty good.
Yes.
The last 3 weeks. This week he hasn't looked great, but there's still that potential. We know how well he can play. He's a younger player. He can build off of this.
Yes,
and especially you seem to think completely different, but I think up against a team like San Francisco, I don't think it's that bad that they're seeing too much pressure because it's something that you can learn from and build from, because let's say they had a day like this up against an Arizona defense.
Yes, and that's what is concerning to me, though, is that they've played Kansas City, one of the best front sevens in the NFL. They played Seattle, one of the best defenses as a whole. I mean, Chicago, I'm not going to toss that game out, but they played Seattle and Kansas City, and they, I think, gave up a total of the amount of sacks that they've given up in those two games in one game against a much worse defense in San Francisco.
They're exactly that. They've faced some of the best front sevens or best defenses
as
a whole.
And they were fine. But it's saying I'm saying from the fact that if they had turned in a worse performance against a worse defense is more concerning to me.
I think that's okay because look on last week, they had a Monday Night Football game.
Yes.
So they have a shorter week. Then they're traveling a little further sometimes than they normally do. They're traveling all the way to California. And the coach. Please give me the head coach name.
McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy, thank you. I was blanking so hard. All I could think was Dom Capers because we talked about him.
No.
But Mike McCarthy was saying in an interview that he was expecting a slower game, not a better performance because they haven't had a lot of time to plan it.
Well, Rodgers has only been sacked 6 times this season.
Yeah, and so I'm not really concerned because it had a shorter week. And
by one day,
they had that means a difference. Sometimes.
It's a shorter week, and it would be different if they had played an away game and then gone to California, but they played a home game, so they were already there. So they went to work the next morning. No big deal.
But you still have to go all the way to Cali.
Yes,
and I mean
it's only like a 3-hour flight.
Mike McCarthy knows the team. Mike McCarthy knows. If he said he knew it was going to be a struggle, he knew it was going to be a struggle. Listen to the man.
I respect McCarthy, and I also respect him for how much he played Ty Montgomery yesterday also.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm not really too concerned with how the offensive line played. Yes, I'm not saying that they're playing. I'm not saying that they played well. I'm just saying that they faced Kansas City, who blitzed at least who pushed at least 6 men.
Well, they knew
on
they
Aaron
needed
Rodgers
to.
pretty much the entire game, and he only got sacked I think twice that game. And then also playing the good Seattle defense, still only allowed, I believe, a sack or 2. So, yeah, the offensive line did not play great against San Francisco, but they weren't horrible.
No, and the thing that is going to be interesting for me, though, that's why I'm concerned, is because now look who they play next week. They play the St. Louis Rams next week, who have sacked their opponent 17 times in the first 4 games.
They're like the giant killer, though. That's what I'm really concerned
about.
Well,
they beat Seattle opening day. But they're a weird giant killer. They're a giant killer when they feel like they're up to it, because they beat Seattle, then they lose to Washington and Pittsburgh, then they beat Arizona. Now they play Green Bay. It's one of those things where, okay, is this going to be a real... What St. Louis team is going to show up next week? St. Louis that has a killer front 4, or the St. Louis team that
loses
lost
to the Redskins?
I don't know. I don't know what exactly is going to come out of that. Overall, though, I thought Green Bay, yes, like you mentioned, they won. I'll be honest, and I'll be open about it. They're not going to get my first place vote in our power rankings this week, simply because I think that the team that they played was not very good. And I think they'll still be a top 3 team for me in my voting. I don't know where the rest of the staff is going to vote in, but for me, Green Bay is not the number 1 team in the NFL right now.
I think they are, and you might think that's a bias of me, but I'm not really concerned with how the offense performed, because I'm just not concerned about that at all. I'm really not, because we knew it was going to be a slower game heading into this.
Yes.
And we're not surprised. I feel like this is a big win because we know what the offense can do. We know what the Green Bay Packer offense can do. We've seen it before. We see they can be consistent. It just wasn't a perfect day for them yesterday. But they still put 17 points on the board. They still won the game. What I think this proves is that the Packers defense is good. Is better than people are giving them credit for.
Would you buy or sell the Packers defense right now?
I'm buying them 100%. I believe they were better than people were giving them credit for. Yeah, they had a couple bad games, and then in those situations, yes, but still not bad. They only allowed 77 yards on the ground, 160 or 119 yards through the air if you're taking back sacks and whatnot. And everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 119 yards through the air. So just an overall really good job by 160 yards through the air, 160 yards through the air. So overall, I think that's actually a really good day by the Packers defense.
Yeah, forced 3 fumbles. And had an interception. It was a good day for the Packers defense.
They didn't get any of those fumbles, unfortunately.
Still forced 3 fumbles, yes. Though. That'll get you some fantasy points if you started them. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, Connor Christensen will be here to talk about his fitness tip on a Monday edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show. The Packers are 4-0. Grant and I are happy. We're going to talk about it more, though, from a fantasy perspective tomorrow with Bleacher Report's David Kenyon. Don't miss it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant. Why did you go all NPR?
I'm going to use my NPR
you
voice.
Just went all NPR on everything.
This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show.
Jeez,
well, it's
weird.
I'm drinking coffee. It's a rainy day outside. I feel like I should be listening to Nora Jones.
I was just
relaxing fireside.
Now it's time for Sonata number 5.
This is fresh air. I'm so glad we're actually going to get this caught, because the last time we did an NPR segment,
our
equipment failed us and we lost it, and we were both very distraught. I was not happy. I was not happy.
We lost the NPR. It's unfortunate.
Thankfully, we have recovered from the NPR days now, and we are.
It's like he comes on all NPR. I'm like,
I looked outside. I was like, it's time for NPR. That's just the mood I was in for that brief moment.
All right,
that's just how
Whatever
I felt.
Floats your boat.
Sometimes that's all it takes. You know, though, what does float my boat most days is the great man that is Connor Christensen. So, good morning, Connor. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing good. Have you found your NPR voice this morning, Connor? Or are you more of an exciting fitness, let's go crush somebody with a sledgehammer kind of thing?
The second one.
Okay. Like, sledgehammer might be a bit much, but you still get the general
I've always
concept.
wanted to do that. I've always wanted to try that. Hit the tire with the sledgehammer.
Is that a thing? Hitting a tire with a sledgehammer?
I've never done it, but I've wanted to try it because it's awesome.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to make a video about it if you do end up deciding to do that. All right, Connor.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
I'm excited to see what you have for your fitness tip this week, sir. You've been all over the body recently with some of your tips. So where are you taking us today?
Oh boy, where am I taking you today? I'm taking you total body today.
Oh my!
This fitness tip is inspired by. I get asked this question a lot with people who are coming to me asking for fitness advice. They say, "Oh, I want to get in shape. What do I do?" And I'm like, "Well, okay. Well, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to accomplish? It's not just get in shape. What do you want to do?"
Mm-hmm.
So people tell me all the time, "Well, I want to build strength and endurance at the same time."
Okay.
And then they are instantly distraught by the look on my face as soon as they say that. And it's not because it's not possible. It's because it's very challenging to do.
It is.
How do you build strength and endurance? Because usually you get one without the other, and doing one causes the other to go away.
Yeah.
In most training programs. But I will say this right here and now. This is my fitness tip. How do you build strength and endurance? It is possible. You have to do things that are enough stimulus on your muscles to cause them to break down. The breakdown of muscle is what builds muscle. As soon as you break it down, you build it back stronger than before. That's the whole principle behind becoming stronger.
It's a matter of principle.
Yeah. And so you do those things for long periods of time. So the example that comes into my head is a boxer,
yes,
a fighter, a wrestler, something like that. These people that need to be very, very strong and yet be able to sustain that strength for, minutes at a time. And what people don't realize is that your muscle fibers, like microscopically, the big ones, the big strong ones, they only last about 30 seconds at most.
Is that why you see a lot of fighters and boxers? They'll kind of just have a quick rampage of throwing punches and foiling, and then they'll stop and just kind of like recover and, bop around and such. Okay. That makes more sense.
Exactly it.
Okay. That definitely makes a lot more sense.
You have your body has a couple different ways of creating energy and utilizing energy. And the one that all your power comes from is one that uses sugar, and that process can only work for about 30 seconds, and then you're done, and then that one is done, and the rest of it's oxygen, and your body utilizes that. And how efficiently your body can do that is how good your endurance is. Marathon runners are fantastic at utilizing oxygen to create energy. So when you're building strength and endurance, you need to be able to make your muscles bigger and stronger, as well as making your body more efficient. So how do you do that? It sounds very daunting. Like how can you trick your body into doing something that it's not used to doing, it's not meant to do?
Is it a trick, or is it just starting to build a new routine?
I would say you would trick it with a new routine.
Fair enough.
That would be my answer to that. You have to combine a whole lot of different things. So when you're building just strength, it will take 6 weeks in order for you to see strength gains. That's usually how it works. Same with endurance. You start running, it takes about 6 weeks for you to see any sort of cardiovascular difference. When you are working both at the same time, it will still take 6 weeks, but the effects will be much smaller.
Okay.
So because when you're trying to do both, your body is trying to do both. It doesn't build everything as quickly. It works at a slower rate. You get this. You will get increases. You will get gains in strength and endurance, but it will take a lot longer to do than just building strength or just building endurance. Because your body is working overtime.
Yes.
It is possible, but and there's only so far you can go with that. They say genetically people are predisposed to doing things like a European person, a person of white descent, is usually genetically built for lifting weights, like a bodybuilding type of thing.
Sure, that makes sense.
As where, people... they always say, Kenyan speed and all that, because they are very, very good at endurance exercises.
Now, Connor.
That's why all of the big marathon runners and 5,000s and whatever in the Olympics are usually all people of that descent, and that's because genetically they were predisposed to certain events.
Now, Connor, quick question for you.
Yes.
When you say Kenyan speed, do you mean David Kenyon speed?
I figured you would ask that.
Come on, it was too easy. Come on.
As soon as you said that, we both looked at each other. We're like,
as in all things in life, we should all strive to be David Kenyon.
We really should.
He is David Kenyon, so there's no going wrong with that. So yes, Kenyon speed could be taken either way.
That's fantastic.
Good question. Excellent question.
Thank
Very relevant.
Thank you.
Well, Connor, to wrap up your segment today, we appreciate your fitness tip. I want to just briefly have you flip gears here for a moment and talk about the Vikings 23-20 loss to Denver yesterday. If there's two things, first of all, that step out. It's the fact that the offensive line desperately misses Phil Loadholt, like desperately.
Oh, yeah.
And the second thing is that AP is done dealing with the crap of everybody, because we saw that on his 41-yard rushing touchdown where he literally found a small gap, blew through it, and just sprinted to the end zone, and he looked like a man on a mission that was not going to be stopped.
Nope.
So, but the thing that bothers me the most, though, is the lack of protection, because you saw late in the game Denver was bringing everybody, their mother, and the concession stands guy to get pressure on Teddy Bridgewater.
And that's what ended the game.
And that's what ended the game, was a fumble, because the entire right side of the offensive line basically was like, go ahead. Go right ahead. Just go get him, kind of a thing. They just kind of folded, and it was just this massive flood that came in. Is it the lack of offensive line protection, or is it the lack of experience from Teddy? What exactly does Minnesota need to do to get back on track?
Well, that is a wonderful question. I love the fact that Adrian Peterson is continuing to shut people up about if he can play, or how good is he still, because AP is AP and he is doing what he does and he is fantastic. So there's nothing to worry about there. Teddy, week one he needed more confidence.
Yes.
And he also needed, and he needs protection. I would say normally when Adrian Peterson is doing well, Teddy is doing well too. And Teddy was hurried a lot and pressured a lot, but he actually did not play, or he actually played fairly well for all of that being said.
It's true.
I would say it's definitely more of an offensive line issue where they need to give him the protection in order so that he can actually see the field and not be hurried. Because he's got the targets. He's got a lot of targets now, and he's got multiple. He's got different things he can do with Adrian Peterson being a run threat. He can do. The term is escaping me right now. Play action. He can do play action to throw off the defense. He can throw to AP. He can throw down the field. He has all these different things that he can do, and the defense is stepping up, taking some of the pressure off as well. They're playing very well. Harrison Smith, my boy, got an interception. Just gonna point that out.
Well, the fact that they picked off Manning twice yesterday, which was huge for the confidence booster for Minnesota.
Now, and Connor, you're talking about Teddy Bridgewater and how he's not actually doing that bad. He just needs protection. Looking at his stats for the year, he's 77 of 115. He has 774 passing yards. His completion percentage is actually 67%,
it's not
which
terrible.
Is actually not that bad. That is actually probably on the better end. He has 2 touchdowns for 2 interceptions. So, he has an 80.
But the number that bothers me the most, though, is his 13 sacks.
Yeah, 13 sacks. So is that more on him? Is that more on the offensive line?
Well, some of that is inexperience, which is going to continue to grow. We've seen that. We saw Teddy step into the game. We need to be honest. This is the first. We've only got a half a season sample size with Teddy Bridgewater last year, and then we're
not even half a season.
Well, it was a little bit. It was a little bit more than half a season, wasn't it, Connor? Because Matt Castle went down like week 4 or 5, didn't he?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember exactly what Teddy's.
I thought he was only in for 5 games, but
Let's
no,
see.
He was in for more than 5.
Bridgewater. Oh, now you're not going to show me how many games he played. Well, either way, though, Bridgewater. He finished the season with 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions last year. He was sacked 39 times during that run. However, though, like we mentioned, that's a bit unfortunate. However, but Teddy Bridgewater, though, I think is the type of guy who is going to be okay. He's got a great head on his shoulders. Yes, he was getting sacked yesterday. And even we saw, not that we don't want him to be not frustrated with like how he's playing or how the rest of the team is playing, but when the fumble happened at the end of the game yesterday and it was recovered by Denver, you didn't see him like storm off the field. You didn't see him get upset about it. He just kind of had a not a smirk on his face, but he just kind of had a look on his face like, well, there's literally nothing I could do on that. All my receivers recovered. I had about 0.5 seconds to throw the ball. There was nothing he could do. So I think he's taking what is happening with a grain of salt, and he's just doing the best he can with what he's got.
Yeah, and I've watched some interviews with him, and he's definitely the type of player who is he can be a little hard on himself sometimes, from what I've seen. But he's very critical of himself. He's always striving to learn more, to be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everything to him is a learning experience.
And then that's the type of player that you want at your disposal. Yeah, let's see. He played 13 games last year. I finally found it. He played 13 games last year. So, I mean, the fact that he stepped in, played 13 of the 16 regular season games is big. And now that we've already seen him through 4 games, I think he's figuring it out. He's starting to figure it out. We saw him target Mike Wallace more yesterday, which paid off for a touchdown. We've seen him spread the ball around. Obviously, Adrian Peterson, having him back is just a huge confidence booster, because I'm sure, especially in shotgun, you've got AP either in the huddle or in shotgun, saying things to Teddy, just saying, "Hey, man, like, it happens." I think he gets it enough that he's like, "Look, Teddy's trying. He wants to be the best he can, and we're gonna just we're gonna try to provide the best product that we can to make him better." So, with that being said, we'll see what Minnesota is able to do this upcoming week. But it's a 2-2 start for the Vikings. It's not horrible, and we'll see what they do the rest of the way. So, Connor, we appreciate your fitness tip and a little bit of insight on the Minnesota Vikings as well. And we'll speak with you later on in the season. In the week. That's what it is. I don't know. Grant's pointing to something on his computer, so he's distracting me.
Ooh, distracting!
Woo! Thank you for that. We'll speak with you later on in the week with your Fight Corner, so we look forward to hearing the latest news on Ronda or whatever else you throw our way.
I'm sure I'll talk about Ronda a little bit.
We'd be very grateful. No, all right. Well, thanks, man. We appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep, you too, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. Connor Christensen, our resident fitness tip expert, Fight Corner guy, and Minnesota Viking aficionado. What a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I like him.
He's a nice guy. We love him. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we've got our final segment. We're going to take a look at the Major League Baseball playoff bracket is officially set. I'm a little upset about it, which is weird because it's baseball, and I usually don't give a... We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
All right, Grant, before we head off for another exciting edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show, we want to take a brief moment to congratulate Drew Brees on joining the 400 touchdown passing club. Coincidentally, that was also what helped them beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that, but yeah,
Sorry, Drew.
Because I was waiting for it because he broke another milestone. It was like he completed some number past. It was he completed a huge milestone, and it was like over 5,000 yards passing, or no, it was not over 5,000 because he
50,000,
maybe
more than that.
I don't remember. He passed a huge milestone.
He's done a lot of things and stuff with his career.
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and then it was like, and actually, look, he's 399 touchdowns. He's actually one touchdown away from 400, and I was waiting for it the entire game, and waiting for it, and it didn't happen, and then of course, appropriately enough,
the game-winning touchdown.
He threw it for the game-winning touchdown.
Couldn't have written it up any better than that.
It was actually really cool to see that. He was just absolutely jacked. But yeah, forgot to mention that. But yeah, congratulations to him.
Way to go, Breeze! Way to go!
He's the only third player to do that in all of NFL history.
Well done,
so proud of him.
Well done. I'm very proud of him. Now, Grant, I'm not proud of what Major League Baseball is doing. I'm excited for the new playoff format. I think the fact that there are 2 wild card spots and there is a buy-in game, which in the American League will be the Yankees and the Astros, and on the other side will be the Pirates and the Cubs. I don't like how they formatted it because the 3 best teams in Major League Baseball all have to go through each other before they see any other team.
Yeah.
And they're all from the same division, which is... First of all, awesome. Well done.
Yeah,
well done, NL Central.
Let's explain this quick. First, so like you said, top 3 teams.
Yes.
The Cardinals with a record of 162.
Just sounds lovely, doesn't it?
I know, I love it. The Pirates with a record of 98 and 64, and the Cubs 97 and 65. Those are the top 3 records in all of baseball. First time that has happened in the entire history of Major League Baseball.
Yep.
So great job to the NL Central. Just such a tough division, and still able to put up those kind of numbers. So excellent job by those guys. But the problem is, now what happens is Cardinals have claimed the best spot. So they get the division. They go to the Game of 5 series. They don't have to deal
with the play-in game.
So
I'd hope not with the best record in baseball.
Right. But then you have with how it's seeded, then you have the other 3 divisional game spots are taken up by the divisional leaders,
yes,
which is the LA Dodgers with a record of 92 and 70 and the New York Mets with 90 and 72. So they will play each other because they have the lower records. And in theory, what happened is the wild card teams are in different divisions, so they have lower records because, it's the division leaders. The division leaders get the kind of like in football, if you're the division leader, you
automatically get you don't have to deal with the wild card.
Well, no,
you do, but in football it's a little different.
Yeah, but you go to the divisional game.
Yes.
And then baseball, you have to, if you're the wild card team, you have to play a wild card game first, so you don't have to deal with that. So in theory, it all kind of works out, but it doesn't work out well if the wild card teams come from the same division,
and this is what
they
bothers
play so
me,
well,
because we just saw the NBA adapt the fact that the seeds now in the NBA will be 1 through 8 based off of your record,
and that's what I think
who wins the division. Which is, the division winners obviously you'll still get in the playoffs, but you're not going to be guaranteed a top 4 spot, which is a brilliant idea.
It's how well you play, and I don't know why it's taken people so long to get behind, but so this is how it's seeded right now. The first spot goes to the Cardinals. So they play the wild card team, which is supposedly the teams that didn't play as well as in the regular season.
Which doesn't make sense.
But it makes sense.
Well, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense who those 2 teams are.
It makes sense in the general scheme of things because of how the records are supposed to normally play out.
Yes.
Where you get the best record, so you play... You earn the top spot, you play the not as good teams. So that works out that way, but how it's worked out with the wild card now is the Pirates and the Cubs play each other in the wild card team. So the wild card seed goes and plays the number 1 seed, which is the Cardinals. So how it works out is that the 3 best teams in baseball actually have to play each other now.
Which doesn't make sense. But think about it this way, too. If they were to flip it around and do it the way the Major League National Basketball League, that's who those people are. If we actually did it that way, they would still have to play each other. Right now.
They wouldn't have to right now. What would happen is...
Because they would go to 2 and 3, still have to play each other, and then the Dodgers-Mets would play the Cardinals.
Yeah, but in this way, you get at least a little... You spread it out a little bit more.
Yes.
Because now what's going to happen is that the 2 best teams of baseball who have played better baseball than most any Major League Baseball team will have to their season is going to come down to a one-game playoff match. I mean, that's a little ridiculous. And then the Cardinals, who have played the best baseball in all of the league this year, have to play the second or third best team in all of baseball in the best-of-5 series.
So by the time the Cardinals even think about playing the Mets or the Dodgers, it's going to be just a hot mess.
Yeah, and then you have the Texas...
They're going to be so beaten up.
You have the Texas Rangers over here with only 88 wins going up against the 93-win J team. So it's just, it's just how messed up. But we're going to go over the brackets. So we've talked about it a lot. The Cardinals, with the 1 seed, will play whoever wins. The Pirates against the Cubs. That game...
Is that tomorrow night?
I believe it's tomorrow night.
Yep.
Or maybe it's the American League.
Astros-Yankees play Tuesday night, and the Pirates-Cubs play Wednesday night.
All right, so yeah, you have the wild card games Tuesday and Wednesday night. So those are coming up. So the Cardinals will play either the winner of the Pirates and the Cubs. You've heard our dislikes about that.
It's just terrible.
Going to the other NL matchup, you have the LA Dodgers playing the New York Mets. Those series are best of 5 series. So after the wild card, which is a 1-game series, you have the best of 5 series. And then after that series, the next 2, then you have the Conference Series, which is the League, National League, the American League Finals. That is a game best of 7. And then the World Series is a best of 7. So Dodgers, Mets, best of 5 there. And the winner takes on the best of 5 between the Cardinals or the Pirates and the Cubs. Then you go over to the American League. Your wild card there is the New York Yankees and the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros came out of the slugfest alive. Yeah. Fortunately for them, they were holding on to the division actually for a while.
What if the Yankees lose this first game? Will there be mass hysteria?
Oh, there will be burning cars in the streets. That New York would not be happy. But there is the slight possibility, because both New York teams are in the playoffs right now. So it is a slight possibility that we could have a New York, or what is it, the Subway Series they call it? Or
yes, Mets and Yankees.
Yeah, because we could have a Subway World Series.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, there was one a while ago. It was like there was something where they had a big playoff series or something like that. I think it was a World Series. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. It was when I was younger. But so we have the thank you, Baxter.
A wee lad.
Yeah. So we have the Yankees and we have the Astros in the wild card. Whoever wins that game will go and face the Kansas City Royals, who finished with a record of 95-67. So good job for those guys. That is a best of 5 game after the wild card. And then looking at the other series, you have the other divisional series. You have the Blue Jays going up against the Texas Rangers. So we have those. So the Texas Rangers are either going to play, are going to play either the Royals, the Astros, or the Yankees. So that's kind of how it's set up. You can go and look up a bracket if that didn't make any sense to you, because we talked a lot about it. But give us your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think that the MLB should switch over to something that the NBA does now, where it's seeded? Because if we're seeded like that, it would more look like in the National League, where the Cardinals would still get the top seed, but then you would still have the Cubs and the Pirates playing each other, but they would play in a best-of-5 series, so it would be a little more fair. And then you'd have the Mets and the Dodgers playing the wild card, and then the winner of that would have played the Cardinals. So that's kind of what...
This is a hard year to try to figure out exactly...
Because it's never happened before,
yeah.
So I'm not, super mad at the commissioner of Major League Baseball. I'm like,
no.
What's wrong with you? Why do you have it seeded like this? Because they just switched to the 1-game wild card a couple years ago. So this is a newer system. So there's still you can still work out the kinks with it. And to be fair, this is the first time in Major League Baseball that this has ever happened.
Exactly.
And then it's an extremely weird circumstance that it turned out this way. It's just kind of one of those unfortunate things where it's like, sorry guys, that's a flaw in the system. But still, I wish you could do something, but you really can't do something at this point. You just have to play it out and say, well, we'll fix it next year. But
exactly, yeah. Well, we'll have to see what takes place. So remember, the wild card games start tomorrow night and on Wednesday night, so don't miss them. If you are a Yankees-Astros fan, go check that game out, or Cubs-Pirates. It's going to be an exciting time. So we want to take a moment here and thank you as we sign off for another edition of the Baxton Grand Sports Show. Remember, you can get us right here Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Also on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in from 11 to 1 p.m. Central. And then on demand anytime you want on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
And like you said, Baxter, if you're a Pirates or Cubs fan, check out the game. Pirates won home field advantage for their wild card game, and the Yankees won home field advantage for their respective games. And you can also, for social media, you can find us on Facebook at the Baxter Grant Sports Show, and on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show. Baxter is at Baxter Colburn, and I am at Grants Rand BGSS.
Special thanks to Connor Christensen for joining us on our show today. Tomorrow, the Encyclopedia, David Kenyon, will be with us. We're going to see what he's got for fantasy football advice. Don't miss it. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy some Monday Night Football. Seahawks, Lions. Go Seahawks. Never thought I'd say that. Have a good day, everyone.